sent me a video of Brigitte Macron, Macron's wife, face slapping him. Yeah, that's wild.
Dude, my favorite is the look into the camera once he realizes I got caught. Yeah, he's like, oh, and it's like, it's very, you could put like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song right after that.
Imagine what goes on behind closed doors.
Brigitte Macron, France's wife, was accused first by French journalists and then by my friend Candace Owens, who's racist people. She's very fun. She's incredible. And everyone's always, Candace Owens is a hater. And it's the opposite of a hater. Yeah. She's a very kind person.
Okay, so Brigitte Macron? She's like a billboard for fancy French Botox. And Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson are tearing into her like two big-time wrestlers smashing a delicate vase. Joe's throwing out his sharp, no-filter sarcasm, while Tucker picks her apart like she's a stale croissant left out too long. Together, it's not just a roast. It's like they're lighting a huge fire on the Champs-Élysées.
You ever see her sit down?
I haven't seen it.
She sits down like a dude. You know how dudes sit down? Sure. Watch this. Watch how she sits down. Bro, Macron's married to a man.
What you have is a couple that is willfully getting away with, at best, like molestation, a sexual perversion,
He runs
deviance, and he runs the
This is
country.
not some random guy.
Yeah.
And that's not in dispute.
No, that's not. It was in dispute because they tried to at first say that he was 17. Now she's saying 15. The truth is, Emmanuel Macron was 14.
I'll just go with 15 and see if that's wrong.
Yeah, right? Like, do we even need to? And
Well,
that, yeah.
15, I mean, that's a whole different...
The whole Macron marriage feels like something straight out of a dramatic French TV show, but with plot holes so big it's more like a bad reality show. Joe didn't hold back, pointing out that Emmanuel Macron married his teacher, which sounds less like a cute love story and more like a weird movie nobody wants to watch. Tucker jumped in, making fun of how the French media acts like it's super romantic, when in America, people would be whispering about police reports.
Comes out, she's like, I will wager my professional credibility on the claim that Macron's wife is actually a man. And I was like, Candace Owens, I love you, but I think this is too crazy.
Yeah.
And then it turns out she's right.
Yes.
So could you just my mom?
Hey, if you're liking this, subscribe and hit that bell. Joe dives into the age gap like it's a wrestling match. Brigitte is 24 years older than Emmanuel, so when she was grading his schoolwork, he was still figuring out how to use a razor. Joe said if a guy teacher did this with a young girl, everyone would be mad. There'd be a Netflix show about it, and probably a court case. But in France, they act like it's as cool as the Eiffel Tower. Tucker laughed at how the media calls Brigitte France's Jackie Kennedy, when she's more like a twist in a wild French soap opera.
If someone's bitch slapping you on a private jet, like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's a weird relationship.
Well,
man.
she was his teacher.
If it was a she.
Oh yeah, there's a whole like
There's a whole, like, yeah.
there's a whole like thing.
Bro, Candace Owens did like 5 hours.
It's a little bit crazy.
Well, yeah, she's the wrong dog to go after you. Like,
Right.
It's not just the age gap that bugs people. It's how it's been made into this big, perfect story. Joe pointed out that Macron didn't just marry his teacher. He made her the first lady, like he's still trying to be the teacher's pet. Tucker added that it looks almost too perfect. The kid with a crush grows up to run France, guided by the woman who used to give him homework. It's less like a presidency and more like a romantic movie that forgot to be funny.
What's happening right now is this massive protest in France. Massive protest in France. 9 million people on the street. Literally up
This
in
is about the
arms.
Social Security change?
Yes.
Yeah.
Macron in France takes his fucking $80,000 watch off under the table while he's talking to people about tightening up and about how, this has to be done.
Brigitte herself is like a cartoon version of herself. The French media calls her super elegant, but Joe compared her look to someone who got in a fight with a makeup counter and lost. She's always in the news for her outfits, but Joe said her style is stuck between a grandma at a cafe and someone who didn't make it into a fashion magazine. Tucker made fun of how her clothes are like a trick to distract people from noticing that Emmanuel's not doing great in the polls.
But the fucking Brigitte Macron one is the craziest. Because I think she's right. Obviously I don't know. But at the end of the day, first thing you have to say is, what kind of a 40-year-old dates a 14?
Right.
That's crazy.
Well, that's the thing.
Even if it's a woman and a man. Well, first of all, Kurt Metzger says it's 14. I think the internet says it's 15. Metzger goes, it's definitely 14. He was younger than that.
The funniest part is how hard France tries to protect Brigitte's image. Tucker went off about how she sues anyone who says anything bad about her personal life. He laughed that in a free country, you can't even joke about the First Lady without lawyers showing up. Joe took it further, saying it's silly that France's leaders think a roast is scarier than a bad policy. It's like Brigitte's image is their last defense, but it's not holding up. Joe also said it's like she saw a kid with big dreams, shaped him, and built a whole political empire. It's less a love story and more like a political plan. Joe teased that Emmanuel acts like he's still trying to impress her, like he's turning in homework for extra points.
I've known people who've done every bad thing, and I've never met anybody who's even been accused of that.
Yeah.
And yet you're describing two clusters of people where like tons of people in the orbit have been accused of or have in fact committed child molestation.
The best part is, for me, that they kind of laugh in your face. That they want you to know. There's an element of it that's partially sadistic. Presidential portrait, Emmanuel Macron leaning against the desk, obviously the official presidential portrait.
Yes.
He chooses to put a book by André Gide on the table. André Gide is an author who admitted openly that he was a pedophile.
Brigitte's influence over Macron is a total goldmine. Tucker roasted the idea that France is really run by a retired teacher who decided to try politics for fun. He pointed out that Emmanuel says she helps with his speeches, campaigns, and even policies. It's not just President Macron. It's like Madame Macron and her sidekick. Joe cracked up, joking that Emmanuel asks Brigitte for permission before spending money on defense, like a kid asking for allowance. In America, most people just know her as the teacher who married her student. Tucker loved pointing out that when Brigitte stands next to younger first ladies, the French media acts like she fits right in, but the age gap sticks out like a croissant at a fast food place. They try so hard to make her seem young. It's almost as desperate as Emmanuel trying to look taller in pictures.
This was actually well known in France. It all took place in public, but I don't think 1 in a million Americans had any idea at all until your series came out, and the initial reaction to the series was, now we know Candace is insane. Like, the wife's a man? Come on now. And then as the series progressed and became one of the biggest podcast series in the country, so people were saying, so you should listen to this. But I just want to get to the lawsuit. They're suing you for defamation.
Of course, the plastic surgery talk is an easy target. Joe didn't shy away, joking that Brigitte's face looks like it's been battling gravity forever. Tucker teased that the French media pretends she's ageless, but really, she's a walking ad for fancy skin doctors. The public has to act like she's perfect, like clapping for a bad play just because it's culture. Joe had fun mocking how Emmanuel's the guy who married his teacher, while Tucker said the whole marriage looks like something French leaders made up to give their president a romantic story. But it's so awkward it wouldn't even make it onto Netflix.
Crazy. But the facts of the situation, 40 and let's say 50. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. 15 is, I have a 15-year-old. They're little kids, essentially. You know, they're like 3 years away from being an adult. 3 whole years.
Well, you know what's interesting is that like I listen to a lot of true crime, and they'll say that like pedophiles and stuff will put themselves in situations where they can abuse, and I think that's why there's a lot of
Nickelodeon.
The
Nickelodeon thing. It's like the Jimmy Savile thing in England.
The roast got into how Brigitte jumps into big debates. She's not just staying in the background. She's out there talking about cultural stuff and giving France advice like she's still a teacher. Joe laughed at how she acts like she's holding class, teaching citizens lessons. Tucker called it undemocratic, saying it's weird for someone who wasn't elected to have so much power. It's like France didn't just vote for Emmanuel, they got Brigitte's lesson plan, too. Even French kids don't buy the perfect story. The age gap is so obvious that when she talks about modern stuff, it's like hearing your grandma talk about TikTok. she's just not relatable unless it's for a meme.
She's got a 6-hour presentation on how Brigitte Macron is a man. It's fucking 6 hours plus long.
Brigitte Macron was actually born Jean-Michel Prognot. Well, guess what, guys? He's missing. Well, 1,000%. She was born a man, lived as a man for 30 years, and then transitioned at some time in the 80s.
Yeah, they would sue her.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are suing her. Have they tried to file anything? Probably.
I have welcomed the lawsuit. I mean, Emmanuel Macron sent me a threat before we published.
I'm pretty sure.
What makes this roast so tough is that Joe and Tucker don't just focus on Bridget's age. They call out the fake stuff, the over-the-top glamour, and the weird politics of it all. France tries to make this odd romance a big national story, but Joe and Tucker break it down until it's more like a joke. The heart of France tries to make her look perfect, the easier it is to laugh at. Bridget's built her image on being elegant and wise, but Joe and Tucker turn that into dust. The best part? She makes it easy by acting untouchable when her story's so shaky. Joe throws the big punches, Tucker cuts with precision, and Brigitte ends up looking less like France's classy first lady and more like the punchline of her own fairy tale.
This only made the series go viral. Now it's going viral in Asia. They aren't even on YouTube, so I don't know how they're watching it. In China, now people are going, okay, something must be true. President of a foreign country does not sue a mom that does her podcast in her basement because she spoke something that was not true.
Yeah, that's not the way to hide things.
Right.
The way to hide things is say, poor Candace, nice woman, obviously mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to do it, and sophisticated liars do that.
Right.
So it is interesting.
The big irony Joe and Tucker point out is how France acts like Bridget's a sign of progress, when really, the whole thing feels like an old, fancy tradition where leaders are picked for their image, not their skills. Joe kept saying that without her designer clothes and red carpets, people would just call her story what it is. A strange teacher-student romance with a PR team working hard. Tucker mocked how the French media gets upset when anyone outside France laughs at it. They also pointed out how Bridget's image gets a makeover every year. Joe said it makes her look less like a first lady and more like an influencer trying to stay popular. Tucker compared it to a marketing campaign for something nobody wants, but keeps getting pushed anyway.
She's hitting all the fucking third rails that no one wants to touch. She's got a 6-hour presentation on how Brigitte Macron is a man. It's fucking 6 hours plus long.
I don't know if she's even kind of right about that.
I think she's
But
right.
she's got a lot of shit to say on it.
Bro, she would be getting sued right now instead of they're trying to bribe her. Instead of trying to give her money to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Then there's Emmanuel's own contradictions. Joe reminded everyone that the guy who tells young people to get serious married the woman who graded his high school papers. Tucker laughed at how Emmanuel lectures the world about values and modern ideas, while his personal life sounds like a tabloid story from the 90s. The gap is so obvious it's almost funny, and Bridget's perfect image just makes it easier to laugh at. What makes this roast hit hard is that it shows how fragile France's leaders are. Every time they demand people treat Brigitte like she's perfect, it makes the jokes hit harder. Because no amount of fancy jackets or magazine covers can hide that the Macron story is one of the weirdest political dramas Europe's ever seen.